Welcome in, everyone. Anyone popping in, we're going to be doing some congressional election predictions. We might get to the House tonight, but right now we're just going to focus on the Senate and kind of go from there. And what we'll do is we're going to run through the swing states, the ones that are, in conjunction. We'll look at some polling numbers and we'll kind of discuss the candidates a little bit and see who everyone's feeling, and see if, depending on which candidates we think are going to win, if that kind of affects the outcome in terms of who you think will do better. So feel free to go ahead and start dropping in the chat which state you want to go over first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 7 up here that I consider to be in contention, and we'll kind of go over those. We'll start top to bottom. We'll start with Maine. So in a few minutes we'll get going with that one. We'll start looking at some of the candidates. There's going to be a couple of interesting ones too, because there are some that may not necessarily seem like they're in contention, but the incumbent's not running. So that kind of might have an effect. So I'm going to start with Maine. And right now we've got Susan Collins, who's the incumbent Republican senator running. And she's an interesting case. She's been in the Senate for several, I believe 3 or 4 terms. I want to say her first one would have come in 2002, I think, or maybe it's 96. But she's been there for a while. And she's one that, despite Maine being one of the bluest states, also given its northeast geography, she's been able to hold on to the seat by being pretty moderate. She's one of the senators that Collins is totally doomed. Jack, man, yeah, I agree. She's one of the senators that's managed to hold on to her seat, despite the state moving very much to the left. And the reason for that is she's done things like vote, in favor of impeaching Donald Trump. Tends to be working across the aisle bipartisanly. She also, like people like Lisa Murkowski, that tend to work across the aisle. She's done Trump's bidding too much for a northern state. Yeah, yes and no. I would say she's in a bad position. She's done enough to piss off people in Maine and not enough to piss off Trump, so he's not really going to be in a mood to want to help her. Now, who are the challengers? So you've got Janet Mills, who's the current governor, who's expected to win the primary, but she's got a close contender in Graham Plattner. He's a Marine veteran, done tours of Afghanistan. And he's kind of the ones that sort of the progressives are kind of pushing for in terms of winning the primary. And that's sort of, there's 2 situations going on. Obviously, Democrats want to flip the seat, and I think it's going to flip. So I'm going to go ahead and classify Maine. I'm going to classify it as likely. The results may end up being a little closer than that, just because, again, Susan Collins does have incumbency on her side, but I think that Maine's going to the Democrats. Now, the question becomes is, of the primary electorate in Maine, are they going to turn out enough to get the more progressive candidate that they desire? And that remains So I was making sure that my signal's not dropping. It shouldn't be, considering I'm 4 feet away from my internet router. Trying to keep an eye on that. But it just turns out when you're a governor or you're a senator, you kind of got the ability to hop in between jobs. So if you're a senator, you can pretty much walk into the governorship. If you're the governor, you can pretty much walk into a Senate seat. We see that in Minnesota, where it's Amy Klobuchar, who is the current senator, is probably going to walk right into the governor's mansion. So the question becomes, how popular is Janet Mills as governor, and how much is that going to help her get into the Senate seat? I think it's going to be pretty helpful. So we'll see. But overall, Maine, I think, is a pretty safe bet that it's going to flip to the Democrats. So next, we'll move on to Michigan. And this one lately has been stated that it's closer than I really suspect that it is. I don't see, in the year where the Republicans are the incumbents and they are so historically unpopular, particularly in this part of the country right now. Again, we had another ICE shooting today. Another civilian was killed. So I just don't see any scenario where this part of the country just isn't going blue. So I'll give it a lean classification, but I think it's pretty safe to say that it's going to the Democrats. I'm going to save a couple of my interesting takes for the end. Well, let's go over to North Carolina. North Carolina, obviously, in the 2024 election cycle, went to Donald Trump, but they elected a Democratic governor. So they've proven on a statewide basis that they're willing to do that, and Roy Cooper, who is the former governor who is running for the Senate, has proven to be pretty popular. So I think North Carolina is going to be a pretty likely for the Democrats here. Fairly certain that he's going to win by at least 5 points, if not more. Anywhere from 5 to 10. Yeah, good pick. Thanks, Jackman. North Carolina, I sincerely believe in 2028, and we'll get to this map as that election gets closer. I sincerely believe that North Carolina is going to vote for a Democrat presidential candidate in 2028. And I'm willing to be wrong. I'm willing to accept that I'm wrong in the future. But I just don't see any scenario where it doesn't go that direction. But Roy Cooper has got this election in the bag. He's probably going to be more moderate than a lot of people want, particularly, Northeastern Democrats or, Metropolitan Democrats. But safe flip to the blue. Georgia, my home state, John Ossoff running for re-election for his second term. And on paper, you would think this is going to be a pretty close election, considering that he only won his initial race in 2020 by about 12,000 votes. He underperformed Raphael Warnock, and he underperformed Joe Biden in 2020. With that said, Georgia tends to go in the Cooper's too popular to lose. Yeah, he's unstoppable. Ossoff, he's got a lot of traction here. Just in my anecdotal experiences here, talking to right of center people, particularly veterans here. Veterans, people who have to kind of call the VA and call his office to get things done. They give him a lot of credit, whether or not he deserves it. But I think Ossoff is pretty safe in keeping his seat. I'm going to give it a lean classification because I don't think he's going to blow it out of the water. But again, in a year where there's no president on there to turn out Republicans, he's the incumbent. And, we just had some statewide races here last year that went pretty solid for Democrats. I think he's going to keep his seat. We're going to get 6 more years of John Ossoff. And I think it's pretty safe to bet that Raphael Warnock is going to keep his seat in 2028. Now, we're going to get into the ones where people, at least some of my friends, think I'm a little out there. You may say I'm a dreamer. But I really think that we're going to see more than one of these 3 states flip to the Democrats. Now, I don't think that it's going to be Ohio. Now, the Democrats are running a former senator from Ohio that was voted out, I believe, in 2018 or 2024. But the vice president's from Ohio. It's the seat that he left that is, for special election. I just don't see it. Ohio, while I would very much like it, and I think he's got, an above average chance, I don't see Ohio going blue right now. Despite what some Let's Talk elections people might want to say in the comments that Ohio and Congress are going blue, I don't see it happening right now. Hopefully at some point in the future, but Ohio has basically, it's lost its status as a bellwether state in the sense that they tend to vote for the winner of the presidential election. And I think going forward, they're going to be voting Republican for a solid time to come. Now, Alaska and Texas. These are the interesting ones. So as we remember, in 2018, Ted Cruz went against Beto O'Rourke, and Beto got within 3 points. I believe it was 2.8% that Cruz won that election by, which was the lowest margin he's ever won a Senate election by. And that was in 2018 when Trump was very unpopular. Now, obviously, Cruz is not up for election this year. It's his, I believe, the junior senator from Texas. But James Tellerico, who actually had a Senate debate today with Jasmine Crockett. I have to go back and watch that. I didn't know it was airing today. I actually didn't even know they were going to do one, but they had a debate today. I'm going to go back and watch that. I think it's pretty safe that Tellerico is going to win the primary. And I think he's got a better chance than Beto did to win, just given the unpopular nature of President Trump and the Republicans right now. I would argue more so than they were in 2018. So my hot take is that we are going to see Texas go blue. And I feel very confident in my assertion that Alaska is going to do the same thing. Mary Peltola has won statewide elections. Now, granted, ranked choice voting was a factor in her winning, Sarah Palin kind of splitting the Republican vote. But in 2024, when it was her one-on-one with a Republican, she lost that election by fewer than 5,000 votes of over 300,000 cast. And again, in an off-election, well, not an off-election, but in a midterm election year, where the Republicans are very unpopular, I think it's well within reason to suggest that 1,500 people will change their minds. Or at the very least, will just stay home. I strongly disagree. Both Texas and Alaska will be red. I mean, the chances of, right, I mean, that's the popular opinion right now. If you were a betting man, you'd be silly to bet against them staying red. But I think these two are close enough to where, if at the very least, Republicans should be concerned about how close these elections are. Democrats are running strong candidates, and in any event, they're going to be within 5 points in either direction. But I think Mary Peltola, I think James Tellerico, they've got what it takes. These are the right circumstances. It wasn't one-on-one. It was one-on-one against the Republican right-wing vote, split 3 ways. Let me check that, because I certainly don't want to give incorrect information. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not even looking at the red race. I meant to look at the congressional race. Yeah, one-on-one. Nick Page, the third against Mary Peltola. He won by less than 7,000 votes. Won by 2%. So I think it's very, very safe to suggest that someone who won statewide office before, who even when she lost that seat, only lost by a handful of votes, I think it's very safe to suggest that in this predicament again, she could get those votes again. She's got name recognition. She's proven herself in the past, and I think she's got the juice to do it. This is the right candidate at the right time. So I think Peltola's got what it takes to win this Senate election. So those are my predictions for the midterms in terms of the Senate race, which is going to leave us with 51 Democrats, 49 Republicans, which would mean the Democrats get control of the Senate back. Now, I acknowledge that I may be wrong, but I really believe this is what's going to happen. Let's see. In terms of the congressional race, I guess we could go ahead and talk about that. So right now, it seems that there are about 20 or so House seats that are in contention. Now, that also factors in about another 30 or some odd that are leaning left or right. And what's going to end up happening is all this redistricting that the Trump administration has been trying to do, that the Democrats have been fighting back, is thus far yielding net losses just on paper for Republicans, because California is going to pick up 5 Democratic seats, guarantee. Texas is poised to get 5 more, but 2 to 3 of those seats are going to be close. And given the recent events that have been taking place nationally and how unpopular Republicans are, it's just not working out. Utah has rejected maps. Missouri's constitution is going to cause the map that they put forward to be rejected. So, just in general terms, I think we're going to see pretty similar numbers to 2018. Let's see if we can go back and find that one. So the Democrats ended up with 235 by the end of that election. They picked up 41 seats. I don't think we're going to pick up 41 this time, but with that said, the Democrats already have a narrow minority of about 215 to 220 right now. So they only got to flip 3-4 seats. I think they're easily going to flip about 20. So we're probably going to end up with about 230 to 240 Democrats to a little less than 200 Republicans. So I think at this point, anyone with half a brain is conceding that the Republicans are going to get destroyed in the House elections. The Senate is going to be closer than they want it to. Governor's races are a little different. Those tend to operate in a different medium. But Democrats are controlling one, if not both, of the houses by the end of this election. And this time next year, the makeup of the legislature is going to look very, very different than it does now. And people are clamoring for that. So I think they're going to get crushed. I think the Senate is going to go in a direction that even, pundits and the betting people don't think it's going to go in. But those are my predictions. What do you think? Leave them down below. Tell me if you think I'm crazy. Tell me if you think I'm sane. But in any event, I appreciate everyone watching. The last couple of videos and live streams have done very well. So all the support means everything in the world to me. Look forward to the next one. We have a new series that's going to be coming out. The trailer for that will be coming this coming Thursday. So everyone like, share, subscribe, throw all the videos around to all your friends, and until next time, never stop learning.